Hello, and welcome back to our channel on this beautiful day. We are thrilled to bring you the latest, most explosive updates from the world of daytime drama. Sit back and prepare for a deep dive into the shocking twists that are about to change everything in Los Angeles. The hallowed halls of Forrester Creations have long been a sanctuary for artistic brilliance, but beneath the glittering surface of haute couture and legacy designs, a toxic undercurrent has begun to erode the very foundation of the fashion empire. For Electra Forrester, the prestigious building has transformed from a palace of dreams into a suffocating prison. The air within the executive suites has grown heavy, thick with the unspoken demands of absolute loyalty and the crushing weight of family expectations. Steffi Forrester Finnegan, wielding her co-CEO title with an iron fist, has instituted an authoritarian management style that leaves little room for independent thought or creative freedom. Electra, having recently been thrust into the overwhelming position of running the jewelry line following the disgraceful exit of her Aunt Ivy Forrester, finds herself drowning in a sea of micromanagement and stifling directives. Every sketch, every concept, every breath of innovation she attempts to bring to the table is met with Steffi's rigid parameters, leaving the young visionary feeling marginalized and creatively starved in a place that should have nurtured her blossoming talent. Compounding this professional suffocation is the inescapable, claustrophobic presence of R.J. Forrester. R.J., fueled by a dangerous cocktail of entitlement and jealousy, has turned the workplace into a battlefield of emotional manipulation. His relentless schemes, initially designed to win Electra's heart and drive a wedge between her and Will Spencer, have mutated into a psychological siege. Electra cannot walk down the corridor without feeling the heavy, expectant gaze of the boss's son tracking her every move. The toxic environment is a constant reminder of the conditional nature of her place within the family. She is expected to be grateful, to be compliant, and above all, to bend to the will of the Forrester hierarchy. The emotional toll of navigating RJ's coercive tactics, combined with Steffi's unyielding control, begins to fracture Electra's spirit. The jewelry designs that once flowed from her imagination with joyful ease now feel like heavy chains, binding her to a legacy that demands her submission rather than celebrating her individuality. In the quiet solitude of her design studio, late at night, when the bustling energy of the Forrester building has faded into a haunting silence, Electra reaches her breaking point. She stares at her latest portfolio, a collection of revolutionary jewelry concepts that pulse with modern, avant-garde brilliance. These are not just accessories. They are bold statements of independence, intricate pieces of art that defy the traditional, conservative elegance that Forrester Creations typically demands. Electra knows, with a sinking certainty in her gut, that Steffi will strip these designs of their soul, forcing them into a safer, more marketable mold. She realizes that as long as she remains under the Forrester roof, her voice will always be an echo, her talent a mere extension of the family machine. The realization is a sharp, painful sting to her heart, but it is also the spark that ignites a dormant fire within her. The young woman who once sought only to belong now understands that true belonging cannot come at the cost of her own identity. Driven by a desperate need for creative emancipation, Electra makes a decision that will send seismic shockwaves through the very core of the Los Angeles fashion industry. It is a choice born of survival, a radical pivot that requires her to cross the deepest, most treacherous battle lines imaginable. Electra decides to leave Forrester Creations, but she does not merely plan to resign quietly and fade into the background. She plans to defect to the enemy. She gathers her revolutionary portfolios, the tangible manifestations of her soul, and sets her sights on the one place where the Forrester name holds no dominion, the one sanctuary that is currently starving for fresh, groundbreaking talent, the newly ascendant Logan brand. This is not a decision made lightly. Electra is acutely aware of the historical animosity, the bitter blood feuds, and the current, explosive corporate war raging between her family and the formidable alliance of Katie Logan Spencer and Bill Spencer. The Logan brand is currently riding the crest of a monumental wave, but is a wave built on precarious ground. Katie and Bill's debut fashion collection, controversially built upon the stolen, unfinished designs of patriarch-era Forrester, has just achieved massive global success, broadcasted on billboards across the world. Yet behind the triumphant champagne toasts and the dazzling press releases, a desperate vulnerability lurks. Katie knows that the impending multi-million-dollar lawsuit from an enraged Eric Forrester is a ticking time bomb. Furthermore, with Eric's creative, permanently poisoned against them, the Logan brand is in dire, immediate need of a visionary lead designer to sustain their momentum and prove they are more than just intellectual property thieves. They need a miracle, a creative force powerful enough to legitimize their empire and strike a fatal blow to their rivals. Into this high-stakes arena of desperation and ambition steps Electra Forrester, carrying the very weapon Katie and Bill need to secure their victory. The clandestine meeting takes place in the sleek, ultra-modern offices of Spencer Publications, a stark contrast to the warm, historical elegance of Forrester Creations. Electra sits across from Katie Logan Spencer, the air crackling with an electric mixture of tension and possibility. Katie, initially skeptical of a Forrester willingly walking into her domain, watches with growing astonishment as Electra opens her portfolio. The revolutionary jewelry designs spill across the mahogany desk, catching the light and illuminating the room with their brilliance. Katie's seasoned eye immediately recognizes the raw, unfiltered genius before her. These pieces are not just beautiful, they're disruptive. They possess the exact kind of bold, unapologetic energy that the Logan brand needs to solidify its identity independent of Eric's legacy. Electra speaks with a newfound confidence, detailing her vision, her desire for autonomy, and her absolute refusal to be stifled any longer by her own family. For Katie Logan, this is a masterstroke of fate. Acquiring a Forrester by blood, someone who is willing to bring her revolutionary ideas to the rival camp, is the ultimate coup. It is a public relations dream and a strategic nightmare for Ridge and Steffi. Katie offers Electra everything she was denied at her family's company: complete creative control, a massive budget, and the promise that her voice will be the guiding force of the Logan jewelry division. The contract is drawn up with lightning speed, a testament to the aggressive, predatory nature of the fashion business. As Electra signs her name on the dotted line, a profound shift occurs within her. The ink on the paper severs the invisible chains that bound her to the Forrester legacy, but it also binds her to a new, unpredictable destiny. She has crossed the Rubicon, and there is no turning back from the path she has chosen. The fallout of Electra's defection is nothing short of apocalyptic. When the news reaches the executive suites of Forrester Creations, the reaction is a volcanic eruption of betrayal and fury. Ridge Forrester, the fiercely protective and proud patriarch, views Electra's actions not merely as a business decision, but as an act of high treason. The very idea that a member of his own family would take their God-given talent and hand it over to the very people who just brazenly stole Eric's life's work is incomprehensible to him. The confrontation in the CEO office is the stuff of legends, a screaming match of epic proportions that shakes the walls of the building. Ridge's face is a mask of pure, unadulterated rage as he looks at the young woman he once championed. He does not see a frustrated artist seeking freedom. He sees a traitor who has driven a dagger into the heart of the family. The emotional violence of the confrontation leaves scars that may never heal. Ridge, his voice trembling with a mixture of heartbreak and hostility, delivers a devastating ultimatum. He declares that loyalty is the absolute currency of the Forrester family, and by aligning herself with Katie and Bill, Electra has bankrupted her soul. With a cold, terrifying finality, Ridge officially exiles Electra from the family. He strips her of her access, her her privileges, and her standing within their world. She is no longer welcome in the building, at their family gatherings, or in their lives. Steffi stands by her father's side, her arms crossed, her expression a mask of authoritarian disgust, fully endorsing the banishment of the cousin who dared to defy her rule. The exile is absolute, a brutal severing of familial ties that leaves Electra standing in the cold, harsh reality of her choice, entirely alone. Amidst the wreckage of Electra's former life, Will Spencer emerges as a beacon of complicated hope. Will, who has been desperately trying to rebuild his shattered relationship with Electra in the wake of Ivy's manipulative exposure, is horrified by the brutal swiftness of her exile. Despite the raging feud between him and RJ and the lingering shadow of Melissa Dillon, Will's feelings for Electra remain profound and protective. He sees the pain behind her defiant facade, the deep, agonizing wound inflicted by Ridge's rejection. Will immediately rushes to her side, his initial instinct one of pure, unadulterated love. He wants to save her from the crossfire, to convince her to walk away from the toxic war between their families, and perhaps even broker a peace that could bring her back into the Forrester fold before the damage becomes truly irreversible. He views himself as her protector in this chaotic storm. However, Will's noble intentions are quickly intercepted by the darkest, most formidable force in Los Angeles. His father, Bill Spencer. Bill, the ultimate corporate predator, watches the unfolding drama with the cold, calculating eyes of a grandmaster surveying a chessboard. Where Will sees a woman in pain, Bill sees an unparalleled weapon of mass destruction. Bill recognizes that Electra's insider knowledge of Forrester creations, combined with her revolutionary talent and her newfound status as a Forrester exile, makes her the most valuable asset in the ongoing fashion war. Bill cannot allow his son's romantic sentimentality to jeopardize this golden opportunity. He steps out from the shadows, his presence commanding and terrifying, and begins to weave a web of manipulation around his own son, determined to weaponize Will's love for the ultimate destruction of their enemies. In the opulent, dimly lit confines of the Spencer estate, Bill delivers a masterclass in psychological coercion. He preys upon Will's insecurities, his lingering anger towards RJ, and his deep-seated desire to protect the Spencer legacy. Bill paints a picture of a world where the Forresters will never respect Will, where RJ will always view him as an inferior rival, and where the only way to truly secure Electra's future is to conquer the very family that cast her out. Bill manipulates Will into believing that by using Electra's talents to elevate the Logan brand and crush Forrester creations, they are actually avenging her honor. He twists Will's love into a weapon, convincing the young man that the ultimate act of devotion is to stand by Electra as she destroys the empire that rejected her. The poison drips slowly into Will's ear, clouding his judgment and aligning his heart with his father's ruthless ambition. Will, blinded by a toxic mixture of love, loyalty to his father, and a burning desire for retribution against RJ, begins to change his tune. Instead of urging Electra to seek reconciliation, he subtly begins to encourage her darker impulses. He validates her anger, stokes the fires of her resentment towards Steffi and Ridge, and continuously reinforces the idea that the Logan brand is her true destiny. He becomes Bill's unwitting accomplice, a Trojan horse delivering Spencer manipulation directly into Electra's vulnerable heart. Will believes he is empowering her, but in reality, he is merely tightening the strings that his father holds. The tragedy of their romance is amplified by this unseen betrayal, as Will transforms from her savior into her handler, all under the guise of unwavering support and romantic devotion. As Electra immerses herself in her new role at the Logan brand, the initial euphoria of creative freedom begins to wane, replaced by a creeping, insidious chill. She observes the cutthroat dynamics between Katie and Bill, the ruthless strategizing, and the sheer, unadulterated malice directed towards her former family. She watches as her beautiful, revolutionary jewelry designs are weaponized, marketed not as art, but as a direct, calculated insult to Eric Forrester's legacy. The realization dawns on her slowly, like a cold fog rolling over a dark ocean. She begins to notice the subtle ways Will steers her conversations, the way Bill's encouraging words always carry an underlying demand for corporate espionage and competitive destruction. The autonomy she thought she had purchased with her defection is revealed to be a glittering, hollow illusion. In a moment of profound, shattering clarity, Electra realizes the terrifying truth of her predicament. She had felt suffocated by the authoritarian grip of Steffi and the manipulative schemes of RJ, believing she was escaping a den of hungry tigers who wanted to consume her identity. But as she looks at the calculating smiles of Bill Spencer and the fiercely ambitious gaze of Katie Logan, she understands that she has merely traded one form of captivity for another. She has escaped the tiger's den only to fall directly into the fox's lair. The Forresters demanded her obedience, but the Spencers and Logans are demanding her soul. They do not cherish her talent for what it is. They value it only for the damage it can inflict upon their enemies. She is not a liberated artist. She is the newest, most lethal pawn in a war that has raged for decades. The internal conflict within Electra reaches a fever pitch as the narrative hurtles toward an explosive climax. She is utterly isolated, exiled from the family that raised her, and surrounded by allies who view her as a strategic asset rather than a human being. The upcoming fashion shows will no longer be mere displays of fabric and jewels. They will be brutal, public executions of legacy and pride. Ridge and Steffi are marshaling their forces, their hostility fueling a desperate counterattack designed to obliterate Katie and Bill's momentum. Meanwhile, Bill Spencer's dark influence over Will ensures that the Logan camp will strike without mercy. Electra, caught in the crossfire of this devastating war, must navigate a treacherous path of deceit, manipulation, and broken hearts. The war between the two fashion empires has gained a dramatic new